All right, so continuing with the system of least prompts, what I want you to do now is to stop for a second, stop the video, pull out your document, the one that you're recording your responses on and that you'll submit on Canvas. And I want you to stop and think, have you seen or do you see possible applications for the system of least prompts in your practicum setting or in the classroom in which you're currently teaching? Now, I know this says turn and talk with a friend, but because we're working remotely, you will not be talking to a friend. You will be writing this on the document again that you upload to Canvas. So go ahead and stop the video and then just do a really quick write on any applications that you've seen in your practicum or classroom setting for the system of least prompts or possible applications. So go ahead and stop your video now. All right, I look forward to seeing your responses when we're in class next. So just as a reminder, you have the flow chart for the system of least prompts. It is on Canvas. And again, I just really want to stress that I suggest that you save this. You will be doing your video assignment in a couple of weeks, and this might be very helpful. I would think that it would be very helpful for that project and when you are in your own class or as you're in your own class teaching your students. All right, so let me kind of give you an idea of what we're going to do now is we are going to watch this video of Lil and her teacher. And what I want you to do, and again, you're not working with a friend, you're working at home on your own, but I really want us to take a look at the system of least prompts here in action. And so then after this, I'm going to click through. It's going to start the video for a second, but I'm going to pass it really quickly. So after we watch it together, I have posted on Canvas under Watch Videos, and it'll be under this part 2 of the System of Least Prompts. I have posted the link to this video, and it's listed as System of Least Prompts, then in parentheses, SLP, and then it says Lil video, because that is the student's name. And so what I want you to do is we're going to watch it together once. It's only like, I don't know, a minute and 15 seconds, something like that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to use this form to go back and watch the video. Again, you can find it on Canvas by yourself. And I want you to specifically look at the third step in this task analysis. And it starts when the teacher says, put the candy in the bag. She might say, put the peppermint in the bag. But I want you to see if you can identify the basic procedures in the system of least prompts. So as you watch the video now, because we're looking at the third step, you need to look at the beginning for the attentional cue and the instructional cue or the task direction. And then I want you to look and see if you can find out what the response interval is. So that means you need to count the response interval as you watch the video. Does the student have the opportunity to respond independently? Then only if they make a mistake or they don't respond does the teacher give a prompt. Does she start with what looks to be the least intrusive prompt? And does she work through the prompting hierarchy until the student can complete the step independently or correctly? So as you're watching this, I also want you to pay attention to the praise that she gives, the difference between general praise, such as good job, or the behavior specific praise that she gives when she says, good job flattening the bag. So again, what I'm going to do is we're going to watch it once together, and then I want you to stop the video to go on Canvas, pull up the Lil video, and then complete this form on your own, okay? So let's go back. Oh, let me see if I can get it to go back. Well, look at that. I think that I am frozen. I can go forward. Now I can go back. All right, so let's watch the Lil video.
Well, you're going to make a. Can you show me how to do it? Oh, yeah. Good. Putting the glue on. Good job. Right? Know it. Oh, we got to straighten the paper out. Oh, really? Good, Lil. Flatten it. What? Now, ready for French grams upside down. All right, Lil, you need to put the peppermint in. No more. No more. Put it in the bag. No more. No more. Good job. Work. It's all done. High five. Work.
All right, so what I want you to do again, and this form is on Canvas. It's listed as the System of Least Prompts, the basic procedures. So pull up this form, download it, and make a copy of it because you'll be using it several times. And then I want you to watch the video again. Again, look for the attentional cue, look for the instructional cue or the task direction, and then skip forward to the third step in the task analysis where the teacher says, it's not candy, she says, put the peppermint in the bag. And then I want you to see what you can identify as far as the basic steps of the system of least prompts. So go ahead, stop the video now. You'll go to Canvas to find this form and to find the video. And after you have completed it, come back and I'll see you in just a few. All right, now that you're back, I wanted to see, and again, this will go in your document that you're right now. What did you notice? Could you identify the basic steps from the system of least prompts procedure? So go ahead and make a note of that. What did you notice, and could you identify those basic procedures of the system of least prompts? Okay, so stop the video, write that. You're going to do a couple of questions right now, just so you know. All right, now that you've completed that, let's get together and let's see what we saw. So we're going to compare them. So you go ahead and take out your form, and now I'm going to go through and tell you what I saw. So was there an attentional cue? I did see an attentional cue. The teacher said, all right, Lil, and that was to get Lil's attention. Was there an instructional cue or a task direction? The teacher said, we need to make a baggie. Show me how to do it. So that was her task direction, was to show me how to do it. Was there a response interval? Yes, there was. Now, I counted 3 seconds, and so you may have gotten something different because it depends on how you're counting. And again, that's something that you need to make sure you talk to your staff about so everyone is either timing it on their telephone or some kind of a timer, or that you're all counting and you would practice counting to the same if you're using like 1001. So I counted that there was a 3 second interval. Did the student have the opportunity to respond independently? Yes, she did have the opportunity to put the candy in the bag independently. The teacher, if the student did not perform the third step independently, she did not. So the teacher then began with the prompting. She then moved to the student's individualized prompting hierarchy, and she started with the least intrusive prompt. The teacher delivered an indirect verbal prompt by saying, now what? To give a hint to the student, like, what do you do next? And then she did work through the prompting hierarchy. She first delivered a visual prompt, which was the candy paired with a verbal prompt. She said, you need to put the peppermint in. And then she gave a gesture. So she tapped the bag with a verbal prompt and she said, put it in the bag. And so these are the steps that you were able to identify, hopefully, as you watch the video of Lil and her teacher using the system of least prompts for what appeared to be like a holiday activity. So I want to ask you, what prompt did the teacher start with? And you can stop this if you need to think about that. But go ahead and write out, what prompt did the teacher start with and why did she start with that prompt? All right, so stop and write your answer down and then come back. All right, so what prompt did she start with? She started with the least intrusive prompt. Why did she do that? Because it was the least intrusive prompt, and she's using the system of least prompt. And then what she did was she increased to a more intrusive prompt as needed. So we know that she moved from an indirect verbal prompt, and then remember she used a gesture, she tapped on the bag. And what prompt did she end with and why? So go ahead and stop the video and answer that question. What prompt did she end with and why? All right, checking your answer. She ended with the controlling prompt. And why did she end with the controlling prompt? Because it leads to a correct response. And next, I want to ask you, what do you think about her response interval? Do you feel like it was appropriate for the student, and why or why not? All right, so when we're thinking about response intervals, just a couple of things to remind you of is that response intervals are individualized, just like prompting hierarchies are individualized. So for each student, you're going to identify what is the amount of time or the response interval they need in order to hear the task direction, process the task direction, form a response, and then engage in that response. And so, how do you determine what a student's response interval may be? Well, one of the things you can do is base it on past history with similar tasks. So, there's a task that's similar to this, and it typically took them 5 seconds in order to respond, or they would typically respond within 5 seconds. And so, that is one way that you might determine the response interval. Another way you can determine your response interval is based on observation of response intervals for tasks that the student already knows how to complete. So the student can respond in 2 seconds for a task that they are able they know and they're able to complete, for example, independently, because you've counted to find out. Well, we know that when a student is first learning a task, it's going to take a little bit longer than that. So you may add on, depending on your student and their needs, like 2 to 3 seconds, although there may be students who need more depending on like if they need to scan or if they need to engage in some kind of physical movement. For example, a student with cerebral palsy might need some additional time if their response is to pick something up. So again, looking at the student's the response interval they need for a task that they're able to complete, taking other things into consideration as needed. And then also just a reminder that those response intervals are predetermined. So when you begin using the system of least prompts, you know already what your response interval is going to be. All right, and then just some final thoughts on this section is with the response interval, what was your impression? Again, did you think it was long enough? Did you think it was too short? Do you think that the student needed more time? And would you have done anything differently in this case? Another thing to think about, and you don't have to write these down, these are just to think about, was the reinforcement for correct responses. Did the teacher provide positive reinforcement for the students' correct responses? And if you think she did or did not, what would you have done differently if you feel like she did not provide enough positive reinforcement for a student's correct responses? All right, that is the end of video 2 for this week. And again, doing your check-in for your own understanding. How do you think where do you think you are? You got this? You need a little more help? Or again, you always know if it's a thumb down and you're like, I don't know what's going on, that is a definite. Ask me a question. Make sure you write that down. All right, and that is the end of video 2 for this week. I'll see you in the next one.